Hello. Welcome to the Michael Cisco Show on this fine Saturday afternoon. Good to have you. If you don't have weekend plans, I'm sorry that you're stuck here watching the Michael Cisco Show on either YouTube or Odysee. I'm just going to, while I set up Entropy, I'm going to just ask you, please, if you like my show and you like what I do, please consider supporting the show. There are several ways to do that. The best way, at least for me, is Cash App, and that's hashtag PrytaneumTimes. It's in the description. The second best way is actually through an Odysee Super Chat. They take the least amount from me, and I get it. We get it in 3 days turnaround time. So that is on, you got to follow me on the Odysee channel, odyssey.com/@Michael Cisco. The third best option is Entropy, which the link is in the description. I'm setting that up now. That's a super chat option. If you're watching on YouTube, that's the best way. You can also, of course, support us on Patreon, which the link is in there too. And I'll still take your YouTube super chat if that's the easiest way for you to do it. But also another thing you may have heard, we have Baked Alaska, my friend, Baked Alaska, whatever you might think of him. He was convicted on all counts in Arizona for his pepper spray incident, which I talked to Baked. I haven't actually seen it. And I talked to Baked yesterday briefly on Instagram, and he basically said that the judge even admitted at one point in the case that he was acting in self-defense the first time that he sprayed the pepper spray. So, and Baked insists that second time was as well, that you're supposed to do it twice. So whatever, but I told him I would post the link for his defense fund in the chat and on the stream and on all my social media. And that is in the description of both the Odysee and the YouTube video. So if you want to help with that, go send Bake some money for his legal fund after you support my show, of course. If you have anything left after you support my show, then we can go support Baked Alaska's legal defense fund. But so he's going to appeal it, and hopefully he is successful. But of course, he's a target, so he's a political target. Yeah. And also, if you listen on the podcast, if you still are one of those few people who listen on the podcast every now and then, I'm considering just stopping that. And so I'm looking for someone who may be interested in helping me archiving all of the podcast episodes, especially the ones that aren't on Odysee and YouTube. So if you're interested in helping with that project, because it costs money to host the podcast, and it seems like I'd rather just funnel everyone into the YouTube and the Odysee. So I don't really see a benefit to having the podcast platform at the moment. Maybe it's something that we can bring back in the future. I don't know. But it costs more money than it makes. It doesn't really seem to just make all that much sense to me to keep going. But hey, if you're watching, send a comment. Let's I know it's a weird time for me to be streaming. Saturday afternoon, people are probably out and about and busy. But for those of you here, we are going to learn about the fourth day of creation. And before we get into that, we will start with prayer. O most good Lord, send down upon us the grace of thy Holy Spirit, who granteth gifts and strengtheneth the powers of our souls, so that by attending to the teaching given us, we may grow to the glory of thee, our Creator, to the comfort of our parents, and to the service of the church and our native land. Amen. So we will start by reading Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 19, which is the account of the fourth day of creation. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven, for illumination to divide day from night. Let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years. Let them be for illumination in the firmament of heaven to give light on the earth." It was so. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. So evening and morning were the fourth day. And this passage, for those wondering, is read during Tuesday Vespers in the first week of Great Lent. And one thing that's interesting to note is that the sun has not been created yet, but light has. So light as a creation was created before the sun. Therefore, light does not come from the sun. Light exists in and of itself. And so we're going to read Father Seraphim Rose's commentary on what we just read. The fourth day of creation is a source of great embarrassment for those who would like to fit the 6 days into an evolutionary framework. There is absolutely no way this can be done if the sun was actually created on the fourth day. For this reason, such apologists for the evolutionary interpretation have to believe that the sun was really created on the first day with the heavens, but only appeared on the fourth day. Apparently, after the cloud covering of the earth during the first 3 days had lifted. But we should remind ourselves once more that the first chapters of Genesis are not an account of the natural development of the earth according to the laws now governing this development, but an account of the miraculous beginnings of all things. We are not free to rearrange the days of Genesis to fit our theories. We must rather humble our understanding so as to comprehend what the sacred text actually says. And here, as all the Holy Fathers, are our key to this comprehension. How did they understand the fourth day? The Holy Fathers are unanimous in affirming that the sun and the heavenly luminaries were created on the fourth day. They did not merely appear then. There is no reason why, if the text of Genesis permitted, the Fathers could not have accepted the seemingly more natural explanation that the light of the sun illuminated the first 3 days of creation, but that the orb of the sun only became visible from the earth on the fourth day. That they universally reject this explanation can only mean that the text of Genesis does not allow it. Okay, so I meant to refer earlier that light was created. What day was light created? I just went over these. You'll have to watch day 1 through 3. I need more coffee, honestly. St. John of Chrysostom writes, "He created the sun on the fourth day so that you might not think that it produces the day." St. Basil teaches The heavens and the earth had come first. After them, light had been created, day and night separated, and in turn the firmament and dry land revealed. Water had been collected into a fixed, indefinite gathering. The earth had been filled with its proper fruits, for it had brought forth countless kinds of herbs and had been adorned with varied species of plants. However, the sun did not yet exist, nor the moon, lest men might call the sun the first cause and the father of light, and lest they who are ignorant of God might deem it the producer of what grows from the earth. If the creation of light had preceded, why now is the sun in turn to have been made to give light? At the time, the first day, the actual nature of light was introduced, but now this solar body has been made ready to be a vehicle for that first created light. And do not tell me that it is impossible for these to be separated. I certainly do not say that the separation of light from the solar body is possible for you and me, but that which we are able to separate in thought can also be separated in actuality by the creator of its nature. Let them serve, he says, for the fixing of days, not for making days, but for ruling the days. For day and night are earlier than the generation of the luminaries. Hello, Euphrosinos the Tennessean. Welcome. Good afternoon to you as well. It's been raining here in West Virginia, too. St. Ambrose makes a special emphasis on this point. Look first upon the firmament of heaven, which was made before the sun. Look first upon the earth, which began to be visible and was already formed before the sun put in its appearance. Look at the plants of the earth, which preceded in time the light of the sun. The bramble preceded the sun. The blade of grass is older than the moon. Therefore, do not believe that object to be a god, to which the gifts of God are seen to be preferred. 3 days have passed. No one, meanwhile, has looked for the sun, yet the brilliance of light has been in evidence everywhere. For the day, too, has its light, which is itself the precursor of the sun. Welcome, Brother Nathaniel. Are you the real Brother Nathaniel? As in the video maker, the monk? The idea that life, this is back to Father Seraphim Rose's commentary, the idea that life on earth from the beginning was dependent on the sun, and even that the earth itself comes from the sun, is a recent idea that is nothing but the sheerest guess. It even has no direct connection with the truth or falsity of the so-called evolution of life on earth, because men in recent centuries have been looking for a new and natural explanation of the world's origin. Having rejected the explanation that comes from divine revelation, it has seemed a matter of course that the sun, so much larger and astronomically more significant than the earth, and the center of the earth's orbit, should precede the earth rather than the other way around. But divine revelation, as interpreted by the Holy Fathers, tells us the contrary, that the earth comes first, both in time and in significance, and the sun comes second. If our minds were not so chained to the intellectual fashions of the times, if we were not so fearful of being thought behind the times, we would not have such difficulty in opening our minds to this alternative explanation of the world's beginning. In the scriptural patristic view, the earth as the home of the man, the pinnacle of God's creation, is the center of the universe. Everything else, no matter what the scientific explanation of its present state and movement, or the physical immensity of it in comparison to the earth, is secondary and was made for the sake of the earth, that is, for man. Our God is of such power and majesty that we need not doubt that in a single momentary exercise of his creative might, he brought into being this whole earth, large to us, but only a speck in the whole universe, and that in another moment of his power, he made the whole immensity of the stars of heaven. He could do vastly more than that if he willed. If the inspired text of Genesis he has left us the barest outline of what he did do, and this account is not required to accord with our human speculations and guesses. In our days, it has become fashionable and easy to believe that everything evolved by absolutely uniform laws, which we can now observe from a primordial blob of energy or matter. If one needs God to explain anything, it is only to be the creator of this blob, or the initiator of the Big Bang, that supposedly has produced everything there is. Today it requires a broader mind, less chained to public opinion, to begin to see the enormity of the creative acts of God as described in Genesis. The Holy Fathers, the most sophisticated and scientific minds of their time, can be the unchainers of our fettered minds. Hello, Cobry Obry, what's going on? But surely it might be asked, the creations of God must make sense from the natural point of view also. Why, therefore, did God create such an enormous body as the sun to serve such a small body as the earth? Couldn't he have conserved his energy and made a sun more in accordance with the scale of the earth? One could, of course, conceive of a sun much smaller than the one we know and much closer to the earth, while preserving its apparent size as seen from the earth. But such a sun would expend its energy many times more rapidly than our present sun does. Evidently, God made the sun the size and the distance from the earth it needs to have if it is to give the earth the amount of light and heat it requires to support life to the end of this age, when the sun shall be darkened. Matthew 24:29. We may also see another mystical reason for the fact that the light precedes the sun in the days of creation. Here, admittedly, we have no fathers to quote, and we offer this interpretation as our own opinion. We will see below that the separation of man into male and female was not part of the original image in which God created him, and we know that it will not be part of man's nature in the eternal kingdom of heaven. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given to marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. Matthew 22:30. Rather, God made the division into male and female, foreseeing the fall of man, and that the increase of mankind would require a passionate mode of generation. Might it not be then that the sun and moon are also part of God's original image, of his creation, but were also created to mark the days and months and years of man's fallen estate? The original light, created on the first day, had no need of a body to contain it. At the end of the world shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. Matthew 24:29. And in the kingdom of heaven, as on the first day of creation, there will once more light without the sun and moon. For the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it. But these are the mysteries at which we can do more than guess. There concludes Father Seraphim Rose's commentary on the fourth day of creation. So we will do the post-lesson prayer. It is truly meet to bless thee, the Theotokos, ever blessed and most blameless, and the mother of our God, more honorable than the cherubim, and beyond compare more glorious than the seraphim, who without corruption gave us birth to God the Word, the very Theotokos, thee do we magnify. All right. Well, welcome. Happy Saturday to everyone watching. Just want to remind you there are several ways to support the show. Cash App, which is in the description, Odysee Super Chat, which is the best way, honestly. We're going to try and start shifting over to Odysee as much as we can. There will be one exclusive Odysee show a month. So go on the Odysee, odysee.com/@MichaelSisco. Subscribe, make your account. That way you don't miss the Odysee exclusive. The last one was I had Tristan Haggard on. We talked about a disease, a viral disease that we can't mention here on YouTube. Also, you can support me on Entropy, and you can still send super chats. And we also have a Patreon. No OnlyFans Tennessean, but I noticed Tommy Sotomayor uses it because it's he's like deplatformed on a bunch of places, and so that's one of the places that he goes to where he doesn't experience censorship. So he just does political speech there. What's going on, Aaron? He says base politician. Why, thank you. Thank you. We do more than just politics on the Michael Sisko show, obviously. We do orthodoxy, sometimes comedy, political theory, politics, cultural critiques. So if you're new, welcome. Welcome to the show. I'm going to throw if anybody wants to call in, I don't have much more to go over today. So we can just chill and hang out. If anybody wants to call, I have the link in the chat. I should throw it up on Odysee too. Hang on. Not sure how many people are watching over there. Looks like I'm the only one watching on Odysee right now. That's okay. Euthrosinos the Tennessean says the Ancient Faith Awards show was awesome. I appreciate it. We might have something similar soon. Another. We might bring Celestia back. Celestia might be coming back. So, but I don't think we're gonna do. It's not gonna quite be on Ancient Faith this time, but we might be celebrating our transgender friends, and might be doing that. I see we got a new subscriber over on Odysee, so appreciate it. Very good, very good. I also see that I have a double upload. I don't know how that happens, but it happens every now and then. Because the channels sync to YouTube. And then sometimes I get impatient waiting for the YouTube one to sync over. But we do have the invite up in invites up in Odysee too. So if anybody wants to call in, go ahead and hit that link. If not, we'll just I might just read some Gab comments because they're hilarious. People are crazy on Gab. Follow me on Gab. Yeah, Frosino says, as long as you speak your truth, because truth is completely subjective. Yeah. Which is not true. Truth is 100% objective and eternal. It doesn't change. There are matters of taste, things that are kind of, within that realm of subjectivity. But there's a universal truth that does not change no matter what. I'm going to pull Gab up. We're going to do some, have some fun. There's people, I don't know how many of you are on Gab, but it's hilarious. People say the weirdest things. Andrew Torba retweeted something that I posted, or reposted. I don't know what the right way to say that is on Gab. Here, let me share screen. I don't have to share audio because we're just gonna go on my Gab over here. Yes, I see. So, anyways, this is my Gab. I'm verified on Gab, by the way. Let me find the one that Andrew reposted. Yeah, here's the post I got. Quite the reaction from. We are at a 100-year low for birth rates. Strong incentives for marriage and family are a necessity at this point. Call it what you want, but if we don't do that, along with a moratorium on all immigration, we won't have a nation much longer. And the comments have been quite entertaining. Cobry Obry says, really pushing the boundary of what's a Christian. What do you mean by that, buddy? Oh, I see. Euphrosinos, the Tennessean, says, I found the video today with progressive Christians. It was nauseating. Okay, I see what you mean, Cobry. Yeah, well, you cannot be progressive and a Christian because progressivism itself is a religion that is in direct conflict with Christianity. But let's read some of these comments from Gab. It was very quite the entertaining. See how long it takes to load here. Is it screen sharing? Oh, no, it isn't because I haven't clicked it yet. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. There's just a delay on Odysee. Just threw me off. Jenna, did Owen Benjamin wait for repeal women's rights before he got married and had kids? 3 boys and another on the way. Did Andrew Torba wait? Okay, she's responding. Some dude said, what? Real question, were you ever molested by a family member? I sure wasn't. Would you ever subject your... Okay, those people, man. Toxic male housekeeper says birth rates won't do anything if we don't fix our culture. The family unit is broken, so having more kids means nothing unless we reclaim traditionalism and reject this satanic perversion everywhere. Well, yeah, incentivizing marriage and family is part of that, buddy. The whole point is to the whole point of that is to restore the family unit with a mom and a dad, and restoring the nuclear family. That's the whole point of it. I don't want to just like, you know. And yeah, Jenna says, like, you can't and shouldn't do both. Toxic male housekeeper says, no, you actually shouldn't encourage broken people to have children. We have to quickly fix our society, and you'll be seeing a lot of trans pronoun gay pride kids walking around. How does this help? Yeah, that's not part of the plan, pal. We actually will be paying people to get married and have kids. Will be the benefits only for married people. I'm gonna reply. To be clear, the incentives would only apply to married couples and not same-sex ones. Okay, just throwing that out there. Who's encouraging broken people to have children? I know white women in traditional communities having 5 or more, so boys a pop. Cope harder. Traditional communities? Where? Would those be? You're entirely full of shit, and your dumbass millennial slang of cope harder is completely meaningless tripe. Read a book. Okay. Who is toxic male housekeeper? Jenna says, yeah, whatever, you low T faggot. It's true, which is why you don't even know what I'm talking about. I might lose my YouTube channel, or you know. Star Profits says, want men to start families, get rid of women's rights. Interesting. AJ37 says, how do you like the fall weather, Michael? I love it. It's honestly my favorite weather of the year. The leaves changing, the mountains with the forests are just beautiful. I like the fall. It's not too cold, but it's not, it's not hot. It's just a little chilly. I like it. Archie says, something tells me you get a lot of satisfaction from triggering crazy woke tards. Yeah. I mean, Gab is an interesting mix. You get like these radical libertarians that get mad. You got Wignats, you have McConstitution, you have Q-tard boomers. They all get triggered on Gab by almost anything you say. And it's really entertaining. Cobra says most internet traditionalists are, in my opinion, either feds, nutcases, or teenagers. Probably true. What's up, Dr. Klaus Schwab? Good to have you here. We look forward to your great reset. Yeah, they want birthing people to chest feed babies. Yeah. Bad words on Gab. I should have censored that a little better, but I slipped up and I read it. But let's keep going. Reverend Andy Underhill says, I was in the department store in Sioux Falls yesterday. Felt like I was in a foreign country. Unreal. Yeah. Well, it's nice here in West Virginia. Doesn't feel like a foreign country to me. Sway says, I am blonde and blue, looking for a blonde and blue woman. We must protect the smallest races. Blonde and blue ginger. Gab guy. Green eyes extinct, blue eyes next. Blondes being hunted in the streets. Whites lowest minority worldwide, only 2%. Okay. I know that green eyes are not extinct because I know several people with green eyes who have reproduced children with green eyes. But yes. Blue and green-eyed blondes are a minority in the world, for sure. Rich Burns, Torba, the big divider, repost this. We got bigger problems. Stop this and let's attack the other side before the USA falls. Okay, so 100-year birth rate is not like the biggest problem. The fact that we aren't producing enough to reproduce ourselves without importing our replacements from other countries. You think that there's a bigger problem than that? Yeah, I don't think so, pal. Don't think so. I think actually that's the biggest problem. Maybe not the most immediate, because we do have COVID mandates. That's pretty immediate in importance. Also, big tech tyranny and the persecution of Christians and conservatives. That's a pretty immediate problem. But it is not, in fact, the certainly not an issue that is something we should be taking lightly. Just going after the Democrats, yeah, that's not going to work, buddy, because they're replacing us. We are being demographically replaced, and we are not reproducing ourselves. If we want any hopes of even having a conservative cause or traditional values in the future, we have to have a full moratorium on immigration, because we're bringing in 1.1 million a year legally, and 9 out of 10 of them are voting for left-wing causes. So we're destroying our culture and destroying all of our electoral chances and opportunities. So Bay DeMantle says triggering boomers and libertarians is greater than triggering libtards. I agree. Euphrosinos the Tennessean says, I got the blue eyes. I used to have blonde hair, but it turned dark brown, and when I grew up and my beard came out red. Well, believe it or not, I was blonde when I was a child. Now it's just like brown. Brown. My beard's starting to turn white in some places. You can't see it on camera yet, but I'm starting to get some grays. Starting to get some gray. Hey, I am logic what you are. Russian Twitter bot. Wait till government bans whites to breed max 2 childs like China. I will be an outlaw because I plan to have 7 more. I plan to have 7. I'm going to get married and have 7 kids, okay? Ramsey says this is by design. They want this. Yes, they do. The globalist elites, they want to depopulate us. They want us to not repopulate, and they want to replace us with people from other countries. And it's not Europeans. We'll throw that out there. Which this country was founded by Europeans, people of European descent. A very specific place, England. And they weren't African or Asian or whatever. And so I think you might ask yourself, well, what is the moral, what could be a moral justification to purposefully change the demographics here on such a massive scale? Is there a moral justification for that within the Christian tradition? I don't think so. Expert hiker. Yeah, well, I'm MGTOW. Until I meet a woman that wants to submit to her husband and willing to sign a prenuptial stating that if she cheats on me or leaves me, she gets absolutely nothing and loses child custody rather than be strong and independent. It isn't going to happen with me, I tell you. Marriage is a thing of the past in today's society. Women can leave whenever they want, and for whatever reason they concoct in their minds, taking everything a man has been building, jacking up the kids, mentally and emotionally scarred for life, and the relationship the kids have with their father. So I'm not the only one, Michael. I'm just one of a growing trend. I'll never, ever trust a woman again. Celibate and relationship free for a very, very long time. It's never going to change. There isn't a woman on this planet that would change my mind. Okay. Sounds like you've had some bad experiences. I have too. But, and I'm an Orthodox Christian, Mr. Expert Hiker. And that means that for me, traditionally, the purpose of life, the purpose of my existence here in a post-fallen world is to restore the likeness of God that I lost, that humanity lost during the fall. And that process of reattaining that is called theosis or deification. And it's almost like a transfigured state, like when Christ was transfigured in the New Testament on a mount. What's the mountain called? I don't remember, but it's like transfigured you. You're when you reattain the likeness of God. And in Orthodoxy, there are two sacramental paths or two vocations that help us attain that. And one is monasticism. And so if celibacy is for you, then your calling is probably for the monastic life. But the other path, which is what most people, which is the calling for most people, is marriage. There is no, except for very rare circumstances, such as maybe severe mental illness or something like that, or being widowed. There is no just being single by choice. And so, yes, a lot of women have done horrendous things to men. Yes, the system in America and the West is rigged in favor of feminists. Yes, no-fault divorce has wreaked a havoc on this country, and has largely made the institution of marriage here a complete joke. But what I would say to you is check out Orthodoxy. Look into the Orthodox Church, and then really dive into what it means to be, what marriage is to an Orthodox Christian. And I would point you to two resources. One, the Father St. John Chrysostom, who is a father in our church, a church father. I would say read his homilies on marriage and family. Two, sign up to Patristic Nectar, which is run by Father Josiah Trenum. Listen to the good husband and the good wife. And I think after that, you'll have a pretty good understanding. And believe it or not, inside the church, there are women who actually also have an understanding of what marriage is and what the purpose of it is. And there are actually women out there who are just trying to pursue their salvation and understand that they need a husband to help them get there, just like a husband needs a wife to get there. And yeah, so I understand. But in Orthodoxy, it is a sacred sacrament that leads us to the path of theosis for those who are not called to monasticism. And so maybe monasticism, maybe after you explore the Orthodox Church, maybe you decide orthodoxy is for you, and hey, monasticism might be your calling. But if not, perhaps, but even if you become a monk, you should probably start to take it's important that you understand that there are women who are actually pursuing theosis as well and aren't just in it to just get the man. So yeah, the system's totally rigged against men. I agree with you there. It needs complete overhaul and reform in America. Checking out these comments again. Euphrosynos says, my family in generations past were poor working people but could afford to raise a family. My grandfather thought that when the women's rights thing was pushed, it drove wages down. Well, that's true. Cobry Obry says, women and machines aren't meant to work. That drove wages way down. Patrick says, reject the black pill. I agree. Yeah, what we preach is to reject the black-pilled secular world, not glorify it, even though it may sound like we're in that crowd. Julian says, imagine getting a wife in Gomorrah. That doesn't sound trad to me. I don't know what you mean. There are actually, believe it or not, there's other Orthodox Christians here. There's pious people that are just trying to work out their salvation. So Euphrosino says Father Josiah Trinum is based. Bade Mantle says watch Nihilism stages 1 and 2. Liberalism and Realism. Father Stephen Allen on YouTube. It's a commentary on Father Seraphim Rose's book Nihilism, the Root of the Revolution of the Modern Age. That sounds good. I might actually do a commentary on that book. But Euphrosinos the Tennessean says, I identify as a Julian calendar Appalachian Orthodox. My pronouns are thee, thou. Well, hey, man. Welcome, my fellow Appalachian. Well, you're Tennessee, but, Cobra says, what is Appalachian, dude? It's a geographic location in North America centered in the Appalachian Mountains. And we have a unique culture. And the capital of it is West Virginia. There's the Appalachians outside of West Virginia, but West Virginia is the core, okay? Doorman 360 says, actually, people got wives in Gomorrah. That is technically traditional. Then you get burnt to a crisp. Yeah. Well, the point is, don't participate in sodomy. Hey, I'm dropping that link in the chat again if anybody wants to call for the last couple of minutes here. There's so many comments on this Gab post. I don't know if we can even get through them all, but I might just start doing streams of just reading reactions to Gab posts. We might just do that. Like where that's the stream. Gab comments and chill. Jesus is King says, do you know that children are being sold and kidnapped right and left for the cabal? In poor countries, they're selling their children for rice to eat. The Islamic Iranian Empire is going door to door, stealing the children to traffic. In America, CPS is a kidnapping trafficking agency, stealing children from stable homes, child molesters, traffickers, murderers. And in New York, 20 cop murderers are flooded out of the prison system with no accountability. So you think it's best to subject an innocent child to this? People aren't grasping the gravity of what's coming and will be completely unprepared, buying prepackaged false hope, deceit of the enemy. People refuse to see that this is a spiritual in nature and nothing and nobody can stop it. This won't make sense to those who think and are of the world. The welfare of the child, not self and desire, should be the biggest motivator. I can't tell if they're arguing against my plan because bad things happen to kids. Actually, I think that society, the foundational unit of society is actually the family. Our families are broken, and therefore a lot of what you just described are actually fruits of that broken system. Because our families are broken, our entire society is even worse. And so I think it would go, actually, if we incentivize marriage and family and nuclear families again, I think a lot of that would be fixed, frankly. I think there would be a lot less child trafficking and murders. So, yeah, sure, kids get stolen from stable homes. Absolutely bad things happen, but the net positive would come from restoring the nuclear family unit. That would be a complete net positive. So this isn't false hope of the enemy. For sure, it's a spiritual battle, and the last thing that the globalists and the evil one wants is for us to get married and have children. That's the last thing that they want us to do. So I think you're a little off, Mr. Q Tech Warrior. But maybe that Q thing is a little signal as to why you're off. Oh, we got the doorman in the house.
Hey, can you hear me okay,
What?
Mike?
I can.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was a little distracted reading these gab reactions.
Gab reactions. No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, it's when it comes to society and when it comes to even our repentance, which is honestly the purpose that we are on this earth is to repent. We don't have families for the sake of having families. We have families because it helps us repent, because it helps us grow up, takes responsibility. And while we do that, just as orthodoxy doesn't believe in dialectics, there is no dialectical tension between the individual and the collective. So when you repent for yourself and start building a family, you are in turn helping building society. So, and there's your pitch for the civil importance of building family that ties to the faith.
Yep.
But you already knew that. But wanted to throw that out for your little commentator there, Mr. Q. Mr. Q needs to become orthodox and get his act together.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in there. A lot of what they're saying makes total sense outside of the context of the faith. You know what I mean?
Because that's the key. It's keys. If you don't have the proper faith, your solutions are always going to be half baked and not going to work.
Yeah, it's true. Euphotosinos says you are awesome. Watched your interview with the devotional heart. Solid dude.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So he also said Orthodox Christians making babies equals church growth. Very true.
Indeed. But you just got to keep in mind that it's not the only path for Orthodox to go, but it's the majority path. So most people, I believe, should be going through the family route. But if you can't, note that word terminology. If you cannot, or if you don't think you're suited to that, pursue monasticism. If you can't do that, then I would say attach yourself to a parish so you can grow old with and have a community to deal with.
Yeah, I think that's a very rare exception for people not to choose one of those two paths, and it's generally like mental illness or some sort of debilitative condition that a monastic setting is just not suited to. Yeah.
But that's it. Like I came up with that particular strategy. Well, I'm pursuing monasticism first and foremost, but I have the backup plan just in case I don't get married or become a monastic, because I might go to a monastery if I'm, God willing, if I'm lucky. We don't believe in luck, but if God, if I get to a monastery, if I'm so blessed to, they might say, "Look, Gabe, you're a gigantic man child. We can't have you here." And one of the abbots in his interviews, or the abbot of Holy Cross Monastery over in your state, he said that's an issue. It's a case where they have to turn people away because they're not suited to monastic life. The examples of being a man child isn't one of them, but that's, if you plan to be a monk, man, you got to act like you are going to get married. You're going to get married to the church. So whether you're going to be a monk or a married man, you got to focus on building up your character properly, get your prayer life straight, and become more responsible, because the brothers will be leaning on you for support. And if you ain't got no legs to stand on, they're gonna be like, you're dead weight. Get out of here, bro. We ain't playing games over here. Go home.
I will also say that monasticism is similar to marriage in the sense that you also have to find the right monastery for you. You might go to one, and it might not be so much that you aren't suited to monasticism. It just might not be the monastery or the community for you.
Yeah, the
So
communities they're like little communes. So that is what they are. And a lot of the time, it's going to be the tradition that's connected to that monastery, and the abbot who runs it, and then the individual brothers who make it up. There's a lot of moving parts in a monastery, and even their format. Like some monasteries have, like, for example, Holy Trinity.
uh-oh. Sounds like we lost Doorman for a second. I don't know if that's my connection or his. Hey, chat, is that me or is that him?
It's time for liturgy, but you have to milk the cow. Their business was based on milking that cow. So some brother had to go and milk that cow and miss liturgy, and so they would so basically that's how their monasticism is. It's unique, actually. It's like a hybrid. So keep that in mind, that when you come to selecting and looking at monasteries.
Yeah, I think I cut out for a little bit, but I think the chat mostly heard you. Somebody says you're snapping in and out and your voice is robotic. So
is it?
It looks like no, for me, not you. So that's good because it seems like I'm back now. But that's cool. Whatever. I'm sure that the audience will benefit greatly from what you said.
Good news.
So, yeah. Have you started visiting different monasteries?
I've only actually been to one monastery, and then I've been putting my nose to the grindstone, working like a dog to clear up my school debt, because that thing follows you till you die. And just as I got close to wiping it out, Kufid came, and more importantly, Kufid mandates are coming. I have 2 jobs, and both of my jobs got hit with a mandate, so I have to. I'm going to see what's going to happen when I submit my exemption, and if I don't get exemption for either of them, I'm losing those jobs, and I got to figure out what to do next. So the idea of running to another state is on the table now, because I did a little homework on how it is to be homeless. Yes, I just have to accept the possibility that might happen to me, and I'm just like, ooh, I don't want to do that. That's very hard living.
Yeah. Well, we'll take you, and we'll grant you a visa as a mulatto to come join West Virginia.
Oh, very generous.
We'll give you an exception, doorman.
Yeah, I'll start knocking on doors. Come December is when these mandates hit, so I'll start knocking on doors, and until then I'll be raising up my funds and just preparing for the inevitable impact. So my monastery, my ideas are gonna hit because I probably can build up enough savings to knock out the worst of my debt, right? But outside of that, there's taxes, which I'm gonna have to deal with, and then the other element of that is, let's say I can pay off my debt. Theoretically, if I want to go kamikaze, I can wipe out my debt today, like literally today. But then I'll go to a monastery, and they'll say, "Well, you're not ready to stay here. You need to work on yourself." Like typically, monasteries don't just let you jump in. They'll say like, "Oh, stay for a week. Stay." It's like you kind of have to date them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You have to go for a while. You got to consult them. They'll say, stay for a month. Let's see how it goes. And, there's difficulties with that, because everybody has like, if you're a wage slave like me, like I haven't been to Holy Trinity since I got my second job, because I'm a wage slave. So like I work too much. But, like you have to, it's not so simple. I know of a case. I'm personal friends with a case who did just go there, and they said, you know what, you can stay, but he's a unique case. Like if you compare him to me in the spiritual level, he's like level 99, and I'm like level 12. Like there's no comparison between the two of us. So and I brought up to my spiritual father, and he's just like, wow, that is very, very unusual. So I'm not going to base my experience on that guy's experience. I know if I try to do the same thing, they'll just laugh in my face. It's like, yeah, come back in a month. So, or come back in a couple of years. So it's patience. That's a key element here. Patience, and deal with what God, the hand that God deals with you, and He just says, yep, you have to go through these trials before you get what you want. If I even give you what you want. So I might just have to leave my terrible home state, which I hate, but I love because it's my home. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I hope you. We're gonna miss your call-ins though. If you disappear to the monastery, man, we're gonna. Who's gonna call in every week, bro?
I know it's you're gonna have to get a new weekly caller.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
I was just thinking, you have that upcoming event with Ethan Ralph, don't you? Did you already have it?
That's on the November 13th.
There you go. And I was just thinking how much I love when he's playing a video, and he just does like little commentary thing where it's like if it's supposed to be like, let's say a video that puts a politician in a bad light, he'll go like, wait, what? One of my favorite things. Huh? Did you just say that? What?
Yeah, dude's funny. He had Tommy Sotomayor on the other night.
And
that dude is that's good. I mean, it's kind of cool to see a black dude that bass. It's just something that it's just funny to me. I don't know why.
Tommy's a funny dude. He's got a unique element of humor to him that is distinctly one might say black.
Yeah, I liked him. I mean, I was like, I gotta follow. I had never actually heard of him before.
Really?
They were doing like they were watching some clip of these black women mad at him, and that was the first time I heard of the guy. Yeah, and then they brought him on the stream the next night, and I was like, sweet.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's his content. I've been familiar with his content for years because I used to be into the MRA stuff, and Tommy is kind of like that for the black community. There's the black subculture on YouTube is very interesting. I've got my fill of it, but so I got a pretty decent understanding of where that community stands, just as a window into the black community in general. But Tommy had done some work pointing out, this the support that fathers don't get in the black community. As far as content, I advise you, don't go in there to too high of expectations. One, they always tear down his channels, and two, it's a lot of smack talking against other YouTubers. So it's not exactly like it gets old quick. But I do applaud him for his ability to insult his detractors in an impromptu manner. Like he'll just like break into song, and these songs are not that half bad, and they're just really funny. So
I liked where he said that black women aren't really strong women because emotionalism is a sign of weakness.
I mean, yeah, it's there's definitely like a different flavor when it comes to how these ethnic communities behave. I can tell you as a mulatta who's technically like half European and like a quarter black African and like a 15% native. I've had enough interactions with ethnic, especially up here in North Jersey. There's so much ethnic diversity up here, and folks who look different kind of behave differently. Myself included. Like you put me just get your temperament and my temperament, and it's just like, yeah, like we're like little, what do you call it? Little examples of how our ethnicities behave typically. So it's you see that kind of stuff with the black community where it's very distinct. Black people don't act the same as white people. It's fascinating.
Interesting. Did you ever have any identity issues?
I have very mild. I got very lucky because when it comes to, let's say, my the nuclear family. So I'm like the darkest guy in my nuclear family because I like to say, I got this word from Tommy Sotomayor actually. I like to say I'm descended from a race of half-breeds because that's how it is in Latin America. Everyone's mixed. So I was darker than both my parents and my older brother. And I was a little confused by that. And it wasn't until I saw a photo of my grandma and I'm like, oh, that's who I got my skin color from. And in another element that kind of helped with that is that my family never commented on my darker skin. So, I mean, you see me on footage today. I'm not that dark, but this is not what I'm supposed to look like. I know that's a weird sentence. It's because I've been a soulless corporate monkey that I got so little sun that I've become like olive skin. I used to be brown. So I'm not actually comfortable with my lighter skin color. I like my prime brownness, but now I'm just, pale and gray. So so like nowadays there's not much of distinction, but like back in the day when I used to be in my prime as a kid, yeah, it was a big distinction, and my family never, not even once, commented on it, like not even once. And that's not typical with everybody. Even within my own family, and again, these are Latinos, so they're used to people being all different shapes, sizes, and colors. Like you'll get people in my family make fun of others for being really dark. So I managed to dodge that bullet by having families that didn't emphasize on it, and also being in North Jersey, everyone up here. It's a hodgepodge. There's just so many so much diversity up here, and yeah, it's a bit of a mess, but like at least like I never really experienced any discrimination, and I am, unlike, let's say, a guy who's like half white and half black proper, like half European and half like African. Like I come from a culture, or my parents come from a culture where being mixed is normal. So being looking at a race of people of my people and seeing that they're all mixed, I had something that I technically racially belonged to. So this is a big thing with Tommy Sotomayor. So this all overlaps. Like you'll hear commentary from him about how mixed kids get treated in the black community. They get treated like dirt. That's why he calls them. Part of his terminology for them is half breeds, and I think it's a dirty word. He doesn't mean it as a dirty word, but like he just has it as it's kind of like a derogatory, like joking term he uses. But like if you're like a half breed, quote unquote half breed in the black community, you get treated like garbage. In Latino community, everyone's a half breed, so that doesn't happen. So technically speaking, did I have identity problems when it comes to ethnic identity and the way that I look? No. And I would attribute that to primarily being Latino. We're all half breeds, so.
Interesting. Fascinating. Nice little window into some deets, some details. Euphrosinos says, I grew up next to a black family, and I'm still close to, who ran a small Prot church, and the dad got kicked out of the church he pastored because he said that the church shouldn't be black only.
Well, that guy had the right idea. It's even though it's Protestant, still ethnophiletism, and that kind of stuff is destructive, I think, to the faith. I have a buddy who's he's a military man, and he actually found my church through your channel. So there's a parishioner who actually watches me when I'm on certain YouTube channels of mine, and you should, if we can get him, if you ever do a search on a talk on this topic, it'd be interesting to invite him over. He's a black guy who's married to an Irish woman, and his opinion on things like, that's like black nationalism, and like, let's say the races segregating from one another based only on races, like let's say in the context of the church. He's like, I've experienced this stuff in the military, and he's like, it's complete poison. When there's segregation on that let's say interferes with ideological lines, right? If you're in the military, right, it's like it's not conducive to separate people based on race, because you have a common goal. I think the same thing in Orthodoxy, like you can't do that. So I think it's an interesting subject.
Yeah, I mean, you can have discussions onto whether it's moral to force different groups to live together in a political context.
I mean, absolutely not. No. Let's have a little nuance here. Like the shipping black kids into white schools, that stuff was demonic and destructive. And interestingly enough, like my buddy, he commented on his grandparents making commentary on that, and they said the civil rights movement, this is a black family, civil rights movement was no good. And particularly the busing was monstrous, because you're forcing them to come together. It's against their will, that's completely against the Orthodox ethos.
Yeah, but certainly you can't bring in the racial stuff into church. That's just, not cool. It's not cool.
So. There's also an implication. I'd say there's an implication of like that there is a meaningful difference in our natures in that context. like there's ethnic differences that appear in like the ethnic churches. Like the Greek tradition isn't the same as the Russian tradition, as we all know, because we're allowed to have some, ethnic flavor in the way that we worship. But like, it's like, oh, I can't step foot in there. I don't have Greek DNA in me. It's like, what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all know that we all share in the dignity of being created in the image of God, and when we worship, Christ transcends all of our ethnic differences, and yeah, I mean that's the only position that you as an Orthodox Christian can have, to be honest. Now, as far as like forced demographic change and replacement and all of that, that's different. That's a
Well, yeah,
different discussion.
a lot of these demographic changes are, well, they're engineered and they're designed to harm the population.
Yeah.
They're not like, ooh, everyone should get along. It's like, no. It's just like, yeah, we're going to insert this population into from here to there so we can disperse the Irish and the Italians and the British and disperse them. And then when they're dispersed, they're weak and they're not properly organized and they're terrorized and so on and so forth. So there's definitely, even the intentions of what's going on with these movement of populations is evil.
Yeah, well, they want to destroy any sort of identity that competes with basically being a slave to the globalist oligarchs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will include any sort of racial identity, any ethnic identity, being a Christian. All of those things are bad to the globalist.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is why you see both Christian content being censored on top of, pro-white stuff. Any of that stuff is going to be heavily opposed by the globalist order, because what they want is for us is a docile, non-resistant slave class to them, and they perceive all of these other things as threats to that. So any unifier that isn't just being a slave to their will is a threat to them. So
they want to build the Murlocs and the Eloys.
Yeah, obviously Christ is a stronger bond than race, but that doesn't mean that there aren't arguments for homogeny. That's not possible.
We have to understand that what is it? Ethos, and I actually got really mad at this guy on one of the Telegram channel. I was pointing out how ethos in the Orthodox Church is good. We don't destroy ethos. It has its place. It's just we don't put it on the top. And then he accused me of wanting whites to die and die out and not reproduce. And I'm just like, I just kind of blew up on him because it's just like, no, just because I don't put it on the top of the pyramid doesn't mean I don't respect it. You really can't ignore someone's ethos. Like I'll tell you what, two monks, one of them is the abbot. They both asked me the same thing, and they both said the same phrase. So, what nationality are you, Gabriel? Because one of them actually completely says like, because you kind of look black to me. And they probably like, oh, it's not. It's just something I like to ask, and it's just like I don't get offended by it because like, yeah, that's kind of important. Like, what patch of dirt did your ancestors develop from? Because it kind of helps. Otherwise, people think, what people think I am, right? When they see me, like if they're Orthodox and they don't have any context, they think I'm Coptic, and I'm not Coptic.
You Monophysite, you. I can
it's
see it.
It's Miaphysite.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a Miaphysite.
Yeah, no. That cute little euphemism they use to avoid.
I bet that guy that freaked out on you, I bet you he's on Gab. I bet you he has a Gab account.
I have a Gab account.
Now, I know, but so you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of characters on Gab.
I love Gab, and it's my favorite platform for social media, mostly because you can say whatever you want.
Yep.
And Andrew Torba's a great guy.
He
is. I support him and I support Gab. But for the same reasons that I love Gab is the same reasons why it can be It can be an interesting place. Let's just put it that way.
You know, there is a little thing that helps with Gab, and that is not being afraid to mute and block people. And I'll make this public, so I will put myself out there for the arrows to pierce my chest. Yes, I will be your flesh shield. I mute and blocked without hesitation Milo Yiannopoulos. Don't listen to that guy. Don't talk to that guy. Nothing. I just muted and blocked him. I'm not suggesting you do that, but there's an example. You know, it's just like, I don't have time to hear your stupid provocations. And with that guy and that kind of personality, he's just doing it for your attention. So deny him that attention, mute and block him, move on.
No comment. No further comment. No comment.
I'm pretty sure you have some connections with that guy, but I'm just a caller. I can say that. I didn't even insult him. I just said, you know, I'm not going to engage with that dude. And, you know, he's Roman Catholic. What do we got to learn from that?
If it's not your speed, it's not your speed, man. But no comment. I got some mutual, you know, we got some ties.
Of course.
I might see him soon, actually.
Really? You think he's gonna show up to one of your political events?
No, there's an event happening in Baltimore that Mommy Malkin's gonna be at, and he's gonna be there, and a few other. I think it just might be a good idea for me to pop in. So
Malcolm's that's Michelle Malkin, right?
Yeah. I call her Mommy Malkin.
I don't know if that's appropriate, but you know, does she know you're calling her Mommy Malcolm? And you know, don't you have a girlfriend, bro?
It's a groiper term of endearment because she's like the mommy groiper. So it's not supposed to have sexual connotations. It's the mommy of the groipers.
I believe you and I are of a similar age. Aren't we a little old to be groipers?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm like a grandpa groiper. So
how do you do, fellow children? I can't wait to say hello to Mommy Malcolm. Oh, hi, Mommy Malcolm. I really like your show. You talk really nice.
But I mean, I've as a veteran of both AFPACs and an attendee of a lot of America First events, I guess I think I would qualify. I don't know. I don't like call myself a groiper because that just seems silly. But for me, as someone who's running for office, I can't be like, I'm a groiper. But I mean, I love the groipers, and you know, I'm an America First fan.
You know, can I highlight one of my favorite things I ever seen like groipers do? And I don't know if it gets enough attention or not, but I couldn't help but shout yes in my car when I heard about it. You remember when those obelisks were showing up in random places in the desert?
Oh yeah.
And the greatest thing I saw there, like I got my criticisms of the groipers, but you know, this is when they shine, is when they show their religiosity. And what they did is a bunch of young men went there. They tore apart the obelisk, and they're like, this thing's made out of tin foils. And they said, you know, that aliens are fake and gray, of course. And then in its place, they put a cross in there, and then they marched out, a nice big wooden cross. And if you recall, the article that highlighted the entire feature called them, without any reference to them making any racial remarks, they called them racist. Almost like, but it didn't have any comment on peoples or ethnics, or they just tore down a cheap piece of garbage and put in a wooden cross in there and then marched away like a bunch of chads. But yeah, that's my favorite groiper moment.
Yeah. Cobry Obry says groiper cringe. Disagree. I love my groipers, okay, man? The groipers are like the core of my political support, so don't be hating on the groipers, okay? No groiper hate allowed. Maybe slight criticisms from Doorman, but that's all. That's all.
You know, when you criticize someone, I think overall they're a force for good. You know, their only issue is that they're Catholic, but you know, you can't fault them for that on a major
scale. Well, that's
scale.
not 100% true, because believe it or not, Orthodox Christians are overrepresented among the groipers.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. It's like 30 to 40%, bro.
Dude, that's a big amount, man. That's a big amount.
I mean, that's a personal estimate based off of observation.
Yeah.
Obviously not scientific, but that's my.
Well,
That is my.
we lost our variation of a Groiper leader, the Chad youth that is now becoming a seminarian. Okay. I will not name him, but it was pretty interesting how God plucked basically what is a equivalent of like a Greek cousin of Nick Fuentes and made him Orthodox and did the same thing very effectively, by the way, too. I should not. I'm not gonna bug my sources to say, hey, how is that guy actually in real life? Does he talk the same way he does on camera?
Well, I knew him personally, so yeah, that's actually his mannerisms.
I think I've mentioned this before. My godfather is like childhood friends with him. So, and
okay,
I heard some fun story. My godfather is very good at I don't know if I ever told this on camera, but it might be a nice gag. Like I actually recited this to Luke when speaking to him remotely, and he's like, "Yeah, I can confirm that is true." My godfather's just like, he used to be that weird skinny kid in like Orthodox camp, and we used to make fun of him, and he used to go, "Guys, stop making fun of me!" And Luke's like, "Yeah, I can confirm I was like that when I was young."
That's hilarious.
Good stuff.
Cobra says, on a serious note, I don't like that they get entangled with that typical right-wing LARP. I don't know what that means. I don't know what we're talking about. So
I think there might be a little bit of overlap with the more secular right, but when you're in politics, that's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, you have to build. You have to, especially when you're Orthodox and you make up less than 1% of the population. If you want to affect any political change, you have to build coalitions with other groups, and that's just the reality. So that's just how it works. We're not going to have a Orthodox Christian party here. That's just not going to happen for a very long time. So, yeah. So in my opinion, America First and the whole like paleo conservative scene is the most accurate projection of my faith onto the public sphere in politics. So, and no, that's not ecumenism, okay? Ecumenism is worshiping together and believing in like this Unitarian path. That's not ecumenism, okay? I'm not going to Novus Ordo Mass and communing with them. So no. So
yeah, I mean, even guys like Jay Dyer mentioned that the key to making any particular lasting change or impactful change is occupying local offices and going on a local level. So I think what you got going on here, Mike, is productive. It's a nice pathway of like, hey, maybe I can make an effect. Now, personally, I don't think I'm ever cut out to do politics at all, but it's I think if you can come up with a decent model to follow, we can at least slow the decline a little bit,
Yeah, what's crazy, an article came out yesterday projecting me to win.
Wow.
I was like, wow, it was a Steve Turley website. So he's taken a liking to me, apparently. He's an Orthodox dude, Steve Turley.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Big following. So, Dr. Klaus Schwab said Patriarch Bartholomew will excommunicate you for not going to Mass. Probably true. But anyways, I got to get going. Appreciate you stopping by again, Doorman.
Of course, anytime.
But it seems like someone has freed up for me to text. So I'm going to go talk to somebody. No one in particular. But anyways, thanks for stopping by, Doorman. Good luck on your journey of getting out of preparing for monasticism. And I'll probably before we go, next Thursday night at 9:30, you're not going to want to miss it. We're bringing on Ann Wilson Smith. We're going to be talking about Charlottesville, revisiting Charlottesville and her book on Inside Unite the Right. I think now that we have a new boogeyman, which is the insurrection at January 6th, it might be safe to actually dive in to what really happened during Charlottesville and kind of dig into that a little bit. So that's going to be Thursday night. I was almost I came this close to being an attendee to that. And I don't know, maybe God's looking out for me. I was also this close to going to DC on January 6th. And so maybe my guardian angel was like, maybe you have something else to do this day. So who knows? So, but anyways, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Doorman, for calling in. And I will see you guys on Thursday night.
Catch you later, boss.